Some WNBA players act as though the sudden criticism or comparisons are undeserved, but the reality is simple. You get back what you put into the game and the market. The attention, the reactions, the shifting spotlight, none of it is random. Aja Wilson is a talented player, no question, but before Caitlin Clark arrived, she wasn't getting the level of mainstream attention the league is seeing now. And as the landscape changes, it's clear that some established stars are feeling the pressure. Aja presents herself as gracious, yet at times she comes off as defensive, like many players adjusting to a new era where popularity and reach matter just as much as accolades. Deep down, she likely knows she isn't the primary draw for casual fans, and the constant effort to position herself that way can feel forced, even when backed by an MVP title. The conversation around who truly moves the needle is shifting, and no amount of media spin can hide that. Such a move to the EuroLeague could have set a powerful precedent for future generations, potentially inspiring other WNBA stars to explore opportunities overseas. But the situation shifted unexpectedly when tensions arose and Aja Wilson's involvement complicated Clark's plans, sending the once promising agreement in an entirely different direction.
Idle players in the WNBA just can't seem to understand is you get what you put in, and right now you are getting exactly what you deserve.
What happened wasn't seen as a minor inconvenience. It was viewed by some as a calculated effort by Wilson to keep Clark from capitalizing on a major opportunity. According to circulating speculation, Wilson believed that after winning the MVP, she, not Clark, should be the face representing the EuroLeague. This wasn't just about personal preference. It highlighted the growing competitive friction between two of the league's biggest stars. Wilson's status, along with her championship and MVP resume, would naturally make her a top candidate for international interest. So the idea of Clark being chosen ahead of her could easily feel like a slight to someone who has spent years establishing dominance in the WNBA. From the outside, Wilson's actions were interpreted by some as stemming from the belief that established veterans deserve first priority when it comes to lucrative overseas opportunities, and that Clark, still new to the professional spotlight, hadn't yet earned the right to leapfrog more seasoned players. Yet despite all this, there are still fans who insist that Caitlin hasn't been targeted at all this year, brushing off the tension as nothing more than the normal competitiveness of elite athletes.
Don't y'all want a greater profile? Don't y'all want more notoriety? Don't y'all want more?
Wilson and Clark have been positioned as rivals before, especially when it comes to major endorsements. Rumors once circulated that Wilson felt overlooked during Clark's surge in popularity with Nike, fueling speculation that their competitive dynamic ran deeper than what appeared on the surface. That episode hinted at a growing tension, but the latest situation in Europe has pushed the narrative even further. The overseas dispute has amplified the sense of rivalry, with Wilson's involvement being interpreted by some as a sign of just how personal and competitive things have become. Whether rooted in ambition, pride, or simple professional competition, her actions were viewed as a direct obstacle to Clark's international opportunity, raising the stakes in a rivalry that already had plenty of history.
Wilson was a more dominating player and deserved to be the MVP, and unanimous.
After winning MVP, it's easy to imagine Wilson expecting a surge of attention from fans, sponsors, and international teams. So when Clark, a newcomer to the pro spotlight, suddenly became the focal point of EuroLeague conversations, it felt to many like a slight toward Wilson's accomplishments. From Wilson's perspective, Clark's rapid rise may seem to have shifted the narrative unfairly. Instead of celebrating the reigning MVP, much of the media and fan conversation gravitated toward Clark's potential overseas. That kind of spotlight shift can naturally fuel frustration for a veteran who has already proven herself at the highest level. As a result, some believe Wilson feels compelled to protect her standing and push back against the idea that Clark should be prioritized for certain opportunities. The competitiveness between them, at least in public perception, has started to look like it stretches far beyond the court.
Fantastic, and I think she's going to have an incredible career in the WNBA. There are women that were worthy of coverage prior to her arriving, and I just will not be silenced.
Wilson's reported pushback against Clark's European opportunity isn't viewed as an isolated moment. It's seen by some as part of a larger pattern that has slowly taken shape. Their rivalry is often traced back to earlier whispers surrounding a potential Nike deal, when speculation suggested Wilson felt overshadowed by Clark's rising marketability. While athletes naturally compete for major sponsorships, the way this storyline has evolved has led many to believe Wilson views Clark as a direct threat to her long-term spotlight. The Nike rumors became the first hint of tension. Landing that endorsement would have been a major milestone for Clark, placing her alongside the sport's biggest names. But public perception at the time was that Wilson, already well-established, wasn't eager to share the stage with a newcomer whose popularity was skyrocketing. To outside observers, it seemed like Wilson was determined to protect her territory. Clark's rapid ascent signaled more than a challenge to Wilson's status. It represented a shift in what the WNBA itself values and highlights. Instead of embracing the league's changing dynamics, the narrative suggests Wilson has chosen to compete directly with Clark for influence, creating a rivalry that feels increasingly personal rather than purely professional. In that context, Wilson's resistance to Clark's EuroLeague opportunity has been interpreted by some fans not merely as a strategic move, but as a statement, a way of reaffirming her place as the league's premier star. Beneath the surface, many see a deeper emotional layer. The fear of being overshadowed in a league that is evolving at high speed. Clark's arrival disrupted long-standing dynamics, and Wilson, who once stood comfortably at the top of the hierarchy, now finds herself fighting for the same spotlight in ways few expected. The tension between them, at least in the public eye, has grown into a symbol of the WNBA's rapidly shifting landscape.
How do you miss an opportunity like that? How do you not capitalize? It doesn't make any sense at all. And playing the politics where, oh, we need to release Asia's shoe first. Well, no, it's not Caitlin's fault that you haven't done anything for Asia yet.
Wilson was already one of the WNBA's premier stars when Clark entered the league, earning respect, accolades, and strong endorsement opportunities along the way. But Clark's arrival shifted the storyline almost overnight. Suddenly, it was Clark drawing the bulk of fan excitement, sponsor attention, and media focus. For many observers, this rapid shift has created an environment where Wilson's achievements are harder to celebrate without the constant comparison to Clark's rising influence. That contrast has fueled the perception that Wilson feels overshadowed by the new wave of attention surrounding Clark. Some of Wilson's public comments have been interpreted by fans as hinting at deeper frustration, remarks that suggest Clark's path to stardom has been easier or more accelerated. While Wilson has every reason to feel she has earned her place at the top through years of work, the changing spotlight has understandably sparked tension, highlighting the growing competitiveness around who defines the league's narrative.
And Clark's the most valuable, most important person in the WNBA this year, and should have been unanimous.
One of the clearest signs of Clark's influence on the WNBA is how viewership reacts when she's on the floor. Clark has become a major attraction, pulling in audiences who may not have followed women's basketball before. But when she isn't playing, the numbers often shift noticeably. Engagement drops, interest fades, and many casual viewers tune out. This pattern underscores a tough reality for the league. Even with elite players like A'ja Wilson still competing at a high level, Clark brings a level of attention that feels uniquely pivotal. She's no longer just a standout rookie. She has become a central force driving the WNBA's surge in popularity.
28 years old, 1,000 points in the regular season. Why is that not the biggest story out at the moment?
Exactly.
Why are we talking about Caitlin Clark?
Exactly. Why when A'ja was releasing a shoe were we talking about?
Wilson and other top-tier players continue to perform at an elite level, yet fan enthusiasm hasn't always matched their on-court excellence. That contrast has created an uncomfortable truth for many established stars. Talent alone doesn't guarantee widespread attention. Despite her resume, Wilson has struggled to generate the same level of fan momentum, while Clark's unique appeal and style of play have done exactly that. The league has always had great players, but Clark's arrival injected a new energy, something fresh that resonated with both longtime followers and brand-new viewers. For many fans, games without Clark simply feel less engaging, highlighting how strongly her presence influences audience interest. As the WNBA evolves, it's becoming clear that star power requires more than skill. Players must connect with fans, create moments people talk about, and bring a sense of excitement, qualities Clark consistently delivers, even when other stars like Wilson are performing at their peak. This shift in fan attention has been a major source of tension in the perceived rivalry between the two. Wilson's excellence is undeniable, but Clark's magnetic draw has reshaped the conversation around who truly moves the needle.
Unanimous MVP, which by the way is the first unanimous MVP in the NBA or the WNBA to ever not make the finals, which is something else. Fans are they're gonna share that. It does not mean that we are misogynistic or we're just hating on Asia. No, it's just this is what happens when it.
The sudden surge of attention surrounding Clark has shifted the league's dynamics, leaving some players feeling overlooked or undervalued. Instead of viewing her rise as a win for women's basketball, a number of athletes appear to see her success as a threat, and that frustration has surfaced both on and off the court. The physicality Clark faces has only added to this perception. She has drawn an unusually high number of fouls this season, partly due to her style of play, but also in the eyes of many fans as a reflection of growing tension across the league. To some, it looks like certain players are determined to challenge her momentum, even if it means leaning into a more aggressive approach. Clark's presence has undeniably stirred the competitive landscape, highlighting a rivalry-driven intensity that continues to escalate as her influence grows.
It wasn't what it is. The quality of basketball may have been up to snuff, and you had somebody as popular as Cheryl Swoops who had her own signature shoe, had to deal with Nike and all of this other stuff. But the bottom line is, very few people gave it.
The pushback toward Clark also points to a deeper issue within the league, the difficulty some have adjusting to rapid change. After years of building their own careers, Clark entered the WNBA and rose to prominence almost immediately. That sudden shift has been hard for certain players to embrace, leading to moments of criticism, frustration, and perceived envy. Instead of recognizing the broader positives Clark has brought, new fans, higher ratings, increased visibility, some players seem more focused on what they view as unequal treatment. To them, Clark's spotlight and opportunities feel disproportionate compared to what they experienced earlier in their careers. This tension has fueled much of the ongoing discourse surrounding her impact.
Decide what they want to do. We can point out how wrong it is. We can point out that that's a reality that shouldn't be a reality. But what we can't do is say, this is what matters. That doesn't. When the audience was telling you,